Ms. Jethwani to throw light on the webinar.
Good morning, everybody. After a harrowing day yesterday, which kept us glued to the TV screens all day, waiting for positive news, which at last came at 11 o'clock that Delhi had returned to normalcy, we are meeting on a new day, a new dawn, with a very important subject under discussion. Thank you so much, all of you have joined. So let me thank, first of all, a Member of Parliament, Mr. B. Mahtab, the real spirit behind these four new labor codes. He has been a chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Labor. Welcome to you, sir, for joining. I also welcome Mr. Majumdar, who is the National Vice President of the C2. I also welcome Mr. KG Suresh, who has been a working journalist and now a Vice Chancellor of the Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, being keynote speakers. I also welcome hundreds or maybe in thousands students and faculty from various universities and institutions who have joined to deliberate, to listen to the experts. I welcome all the panelists who comprise policymakers, lawmakers, journalists, researchers, academics. So thank you so much for joining us today morning. So I, Jayshree Jethwani, and Mr. Ambrish Saxena, who is the co-convener with me, and there are a number of other co-conveners, Ms. Sushmita Bala, and we have Seema Goyal from ISID, we have Krishna and other colleagues, technical staff who have made it possible. I hear that there's a problem with the internet. We might be disrupted in between. So let us be cross finger that we are able to make the most of it. Now, let me tell you the idea behind this national webinar. ISID, where I work, is a national level policy research institute which works on macroeconomic issues that also encompass wages, labor, and many sectors like pharma sector, MSME. So since I come from the media sector, so when this opportunity came to look at the wages issue, so I thought, let me pick up this seminal study about a year back, looking at the working conditions and wages and other issues relating to news media industry. Some people ask me why nobody talks about media industry per se. Media generally is in discussion, not necessarily for right reasons, on various issues, including sociology, mergers, takeovers, control, corporatization, its nexus with politics, the ideological divide, the paid and allegation of fake news. But what is germane to the people of the working media, working journalists of the media sector, are their wages and working conditions, which I see as a huge blind spot. And not much work has been done in this regard by any researcher. I see something happening now. So I thought this was the area which needed some work, and that's why this seminal study was undertaken. Hopefully, and this webinar is an extended part of that so that we can have the views and issues relating to these issues, from the experts. And by December 2021, we hope to have the huge volume of research with us, which will be of use to the media practitioners, the media proprietors, hopefully the policymakers also. Academics and researchers, in my view, are alike journalists who are known for the nose for the news. Academics, researchers also generally have a news to spot out things which are out of ordinary, issues and situations that need the probing, and also we look at the labor laws which have been announced as a one-size-fits-all approach, which neither seemed very easy nor something which could have been acceptable across the stakeholders. So 1 year into research has proved that there's more than meets the eye, as the rules and guidelines on all the four labor codes that include codes on wages, code on industrial relations, code on occupational health and safety, and code on social security have been notified by the government. The implementation 2021 is imminent. And I just had read the media report that the tripartite discussion, which happened on the 20th, 21st of January, most of the trade unions have said that they would like to have clause by clause discussion, which means there's more work which is going to happen. And Mr. Mehtab is the right person to throw light on that. So since the time these new codes have been, have come in the Gazette, they have been notified, I see three kinds of emotions, sentiments in the public domain. One is of jubilation for bringing the quote unquote cutting edge reforms that would ensure ease of doing business, expansion, less interference from workers' union. There's no money for guessing where it is coming from. Two, of anger and being let down on bringing laws that are seen as employer centric, giving free hand to employers to hire and fire at their will, and with new IR code in place, government's permission for layoffs, retrenchment, or closure will be required only in establishments employing 300 or more employees against 100 under the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. Most small and medium newspapers would fall in this category. The third is on unfairly homogenizing diverse laws concerning about 50 crore labor force in the organized and unorganized sector, from coal mines to media, from construction work to fisheries, from sales promotion and cine workers to plantation workers, making it complex and raising doubts on their efficacy, making it one size fit all approach. Out of a total workforce of 51%, according to government data, self-employed, how would they be looped into to avail of promised social security benefits is still not clear. There's no clarity on the gig workers and agri labor does not seem to be under the purview of the courts. Most trade unions, as I said, have rejected the labor codes on various grounds. So there's much which needs to be discussed and deliberated upon. So with a general lack of clarity and very many complexities, we are meeting here today to untangle the labor codes through a galaxy of stakeholders that encompass law and policy makers, trade union leaders, mainstream regional media, representatives and academics, among others. With these initial comments, I now request Krishna to carry forward the program before I introduce our key speaker, Mr. Mehta. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving us an insight into what the whole webinar and the sessions would be all about. Professor M.R. Murthy, Director, Institute for Studies in Industrial Development, ISID, is PhD in Economics and MA in Economics from Andhra University. Sir has worked extensively on corporate sector, capital markets, development financial institutions, and foreign investments. Now I invite Professor M.R. Murthy to share his thoughts on the theme, Deconstructing New Labor Codes, Implications on the News Media Workforce.
Krishna, Mr. Murthy is stuck up on way, so you can invite Mr. Sani. Okay. He's on way.
Okay, ma'am. Mr. Aman Sani is a graduate in economics and politics from University of Manchester, where he also worked for the university. He then pursued and achieved an MSc in global politics from the prestigious London School of Economics. Since 2011, he has been involved in the Sunshine Society, where he is vice chairman. With his contribution, the society ventured into higher education and was affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi. He is also director at Delhi World Public School, Noida Extension. Now I request Aman Sani, sir, Vice Chairman, Delhi Metropolitan Education, Noida, to give his opening remarks on this session.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. And it is indeed a pleasure to be holding this session today. It is a topic that I must admit I know very little about, but it is something that I am looking forward to finding out more about and learning more. And indeed, this is one of the objectives of a session like this, to inform people and to listen to opinions, well-formed opinions of experts, and to really get to learn a lot. So this is what we're hoping to do. I'm glad that we have this opportunity to do it, and we have so many experts here today with us. And I hope that DME is able to do more of these events in the future as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe Professor Murthy has joined. I can see that he has joined. Sir, are you there?
Joined?
Yeah.
No, we have kept it ready for him to come and join. He's not entered as yet.
Okay. Yeah. So now I'll take the session forward. Professor Amrish Saxena, Dean, DME Media School, Delhi Metropolitan Education, Noida, needs no introduction. Sir is a well-known figure in the academic as well as in the media circle. He is also the convener of the conference. Dr. Saxena has played a long inning in active journalism with groups like The Pioneer and Amrit Bazar Patrika and Doordarshan. He has been anchoring the highly rated program of AIR FM Gold Market Mantra for close to 2 decades now. Dr. Saxena has academic association with more than 20 universities, which include 4 central, 5 state, and 9 private deemed universities. He has 36 books to his credit as sole author, main author, chapter writer, and editor, and has more than 60 research papers presented in national and international seminars and conferences. Sir has extensive international exposure. He is a member of International Association of Media and Communication Research, IAMCR. In 2019, he made a presentation on innovation in journalism education as the sole representative of Asia in World Journalism Education Congress, WJEC, in Paris. Sir, now I request you to share your thoughts on the theme of the webinar.
Thank you, Krishna ma'am. This is indeed a big day for us. We have been preparing this for more than a month now, though it's just one day webinar, but a lot of efforts have gone into this. So this idea came from Professor Jayashree Jethwani, who is a very senior person we all know in media industry and academics. So it was indeed a very, very academic idea with an academic orientation. So I got interested, and with her guidance, we decided to go ahead with this webinar. And that is how the Delhi Metropolitan Education DME joined hands with ISID to have some fruitful discussion by involving a number of experts in this one-way webinar. And my association, because now I'm into academics, but for about close to 2 decades, I've been in the media industry, and I've worked in so many newspapers. So going by my experience, I have first-hand experience on all this. I mean, the topic that we are deliberating today, I have come across with so many intricate things about this regarding Working Journalist Act. We will be deliberating in detail later on. But then I was the first person, among those first persons who got benefited by the very first day wage board for journalists, that was Palekar Tribunal. And my salary got doubled as soon as the recommendations of Palekar Tribunal came.
So, Mr. Mehtab, let me just introduce you first. Coming from a family of politicians, recipient of Outstanding Parliamentary Award 2017 and Sansad Ratna Award 2017, 18 and 19 for his outstanding performance in debates, Mr. Mehtab is a league apart in the community of lawmakers. Mr. Mehtab probably has the only highest attendance record in Parliament, but also he has been recognized for his contribution to parliamentary debates. He has been heading or has been member of dozens of committees, including the Standing Committee on Labour. I'm sure many of you know that Mr. Mehtab is also a professional journalist. He edits Prajatantra and Udiya Daily, owned by his family. Mr. Mehtab is known for his penchant for going into details on issues that weighs pros and cons. I found an interesting comment on this in one of the mainstream newspapers when he was chairman of the Standing Committee on Labour. Mr. Mehta was quoted, I quote, "We will be going into rules and regulations of all codes. It's a matter of subordinate legislation, but as these codes are amalgamation of a number of acts, our intention is to look at the points whether the rules are in tune with the parent acts. We are also getting petitions from people and organizations against the draft rules. We shall see that these rules are in the interest of employers and employees. We will also see whether the rules reflect the basic idea on which codes are framed. We need to see if this is diluted in the rules, unquote. Therefore, we hope in his key address, besides sharing the consultative process in the making of the new labor codes, he would address not only journalist concerns, having his first-hand experience or being a journalist himself, but also give us some insights into the mind of media proprietors or new codes. Over to you, Mr. Mehtab. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Professor Jethwani. After I talked to you, I was actually in a quandary, what should I talk about? It would have been better if I could have devoted more time and also listening to others and also fielding some questions. But as I'm in my hometown in Cuttack, in the district Jilla Parishad meeting also is going to commence at 11. Therefore, both the programs had actually clashed. Therefore, I had requested that if I can join little early, and that's how I'm here now. Basically, I would say there are more than 40 plus labor law that are prevalent in this country, out of which 4 codes have been prepared. In last term of Lok Sabha, Code on Wages was first accepted or passed in the Lok Sabha, passed in the Parliament, that is Code on Wages. Subsequently, 3 code bills were referred to this committee, of which I am the chairman. And the first code was Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition. Second code that came to us was on industrial relation. And third code was on social security. Repeatedly, I have been telling the government, including the Secretary Labour, that you should have referred the social security code to this committee first, and then industrial relation, then occupational safety, and then code on wages. Whereas you have done it the reverse way. Code on wages has been passed in 16th Lok Sabha, and now we have these 3 codes. But I would tell you frankly, whatever the government had interacted with different stakeholders, including the trade unions, before the bill was framed, there were some differences of opinion of trade union leaders saying that they were just heard. No assurance was given to them. I have nothing to comment on the government functioning on that level. But I would say, I saw to it that respective stakeholders should put forth their views not only in writing, but we will also have a hearing. And peculiarly, when I interacted with the trade unions, I wanted to interact with them separately, so that individually, many trade unions may be having a separate opinion or a different opinion or a point of view. But after 2 or 3 meetings, I was told by the trade union leaders that we want to represent before the committee jointly. And subsequently, when the written statement came, there were different of opinion. But what we did was collate all the point of view, and we not only interacted with the trade unions, we also interacted with the academicians, with different institutes, and also those who have written books on labor issues, on working condition issues, on different health issues, and also especially those who have written about the women workers, the women employees, and the amount of trouble they are facing at the place of work, at their workplace. So all these factors were roped in different codes. And as it was said, I was taken aback because when the minister stood up at the time of discussion during the monsoon session, I would say last September, and he said that we have accepted more than 76% of the recommendations of the committee, standing committee. And I was actually joking with him in the lobby, saying that what are those 24% of the recommendations that you didn't accept? And I leave it to you, especially the academicians, to find out what are those recommendations which was not accepted by the government. Because I find number of recommendations which we think were very essential for the labor force and also for the employers that has been left out. Of course, the government works on its own wisdom, and we have recommended our point of view, taking into cognizance whatever we could find more prudent that needs to be done. I would only talk about, if you have, as this webinar is basically to talk about working journalists, 5 points was basically told to us. And those 5 points, I would say, was first point, which most of the trade unions were totally against implementation of the code, which most invariably they knew what was going to happen. But still the first line would they come before us and say, we are against this code, but that was not accepted. Similarly, different working journalist organizations and institutions, even individuals, senior working journalists or those who have retired, they came before us and say, do not repeal Working Journalist Act, knowing very well that it is getting subsumed into a code. But the second one was of more importance. which I think more discussion will be done today, is Constitution of Wage Board. What is the future of Constitution of Wage Board?
Yes.
I can mention here that when you go into the rules which has been in public domain now on code on wages, the rules that are already in public domain, you will find the assurance that was given to us in the committee by the government saying that we will definitely have code on wages and it will be notified in the rules. So in that respect, I think that aspect has been taken care of. The assurance which was given to this committee, to the Standing Committee of Labour, that they will have code on wages for journalists and they to be notified in the rules. It's a different matter, of course, why you are not having it in the code on wages, why you are having it in the rules, because it has its own logic for and against. Another point was that you should also include the electronic and digital media workmen in this, which doesn't find in the code on, in the Working Journalist Act, which has also been included. That was our recommendation, which has also been included. Fourth was gratuity after 3 years instead of 5 years. In Social Security Code, we have mentioned, we have limited it. Gratuity should not only come to 3 years, it may come to 2 years also on certain services. So in that respect, and gratuity can also be given even after completion of 1 year. That we have also recommended. How much the government has accepted it, that is for you to find out. Last one was the payment of salary of 3 months before termination. We also have recommended that in the Social Security. These were the 5 major aspects which was told to us by for the working journalist, and that's how we have expanded and the working journalist area. We have included the digital and electronic media workmen. One more factor which I think needs to be mentioned here is that most of the electronic and digital media, of course, they are stationed in one room or one place and they work. But the electronic media, there is no time limit. As most of the working journalists who are in the field, they work for more than 8 hours, 10 hours, they travel for a long distance, and there is no time limit. We have factored that also in the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code. I think many members can go into that aspect and can find out what has actually happened. But as I have said, the line that we have quoted from a newspaper of me saying that how our recommendations, these are the law that has been framed, but law will be implemented through rules and regulations. There actually the pinch lies. How the rules are being framed, how the day-to-day activities are to be monitored, or how it is to be implemented, this can only be seen in the rules. Therefore, of course, as you are aware, Parliamentary Standing Committee cannot go into the into the issues of rules and regulations. There is a subordinate legislation committee which goes into the rules and regulations. But I thought it fit because as budget session is on and now we have vote on demand, which will go on for another 1 month or so. By end of March, I'll be in a position to take the whole committee into confidence that we should also go into the rules and regulations before 1st of April, because that is the time when 1st of April the rules will be notified. Now it is in public domain. So I'm keeping month of March to deliberate on that, how much our intent has been reflected in the rules and regulations. Of course, that is not the domain of the standing committee, but I'm extending my boundary a little bit. I'll talk to the Honorable Speaker about it, and it needs to be deliberated. One thing I should also mention here, had the code been discussed in both the houses threadbare, lot of confusion would have been removed. Because it was not discussed, opposition was boycotting, some people, good members who are quite aware about the labor code, they fell sick, suffered from COVID-19, they could not attend the house. That's how the deliberation that I intended that should happen in the house, that did not happen. But anyway, something is better than nothing. I believe, I hold this view that yes, there are certain laws which are more than 100 years old. There were certain colonial laws which we inherited. There were certain laws of 1947, 48, 57, 69, like that. It needed refurbishment.
Yes.
Because technology has changed, working condition also has changed. Large number of women workers also have come into the workplace. What type of security are we providing? All these things also have been factored in. I believe the more we discuss on this subject, it is for the betterment of our citizens. Thank you very much for allowing me to put some few words here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I don't wonder why you are the favorite of journalists. This is what I say, that you are so articulate, you are so good at your work. Thank you so much for being with us. There was a lot of disturbance, from your end, but I've been able to note a lot of points. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. What I'm going to do, I'm requesting everybody to put the question in the chat box. And as I told you, I'll send you the link and
Yes.
also the question, so that this is not the last time we are meeting, we shall meet further. I can't thank you enough for being so forthright and frank in your deliberation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm really obliged. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can go for your meeting now. Thank you. Krishna,
Yes, ma'am.
Krishna, I'm thinking of now inviting Mr. Majumdar. Is there? Hello, Krishna?
Ma'am, I'm just checking.
Yeah, so we can, and Mr. Murthy, we can request to come at the end, because I just want the flow to go.
Yeah, Mr. Majumdar sir is here.
Mr. Majumdar, are you there, Dada? Are you there?
Yes.
Good
Yes.
morning, Mr. Majumdar.
Good morning.
Let me just give a small introduction before we hear your discourse. Comrade J.S. Majumdar is the All India Vice President of C2, Center of Indian Trade Unions. He has more than 4 decades of experience of trade union work, especially among the medical representatives, and hence is well poised to understand the dynamics of the policy changes in the pharma industry. When I spoke to Dr. Hemlata, C2, the president, the first thing she said was that I am not the right person. Majumdar Dada is the right person, because he has been working on the working journalist issues also. So we are so happy to have you here. Comrade Majumdar has represented trade unions of workers in national, international conferences several times in ILO and other national and international forums of the workers, especially of the oil, chemical, pharma industries, and the World Conference Against Chemical and Bacteriological Weapons and WFTU. We are eager to listen to you, Comrade Majumdar, on the role of trade unions in the consultation process and how the new codes are going to affect the working journalists, especially when the media industry per se in general has not really stood by their employees in ensuring fair wages and service conditions. Most of the media industry proprietors have rejected wage boards. They have not even listened to the highest code, the Majithia Commission, not except for minuscule, media organizations, others have not implemented. So what role are the trade unions playing in, juxtaposing with the associations, or how are you taking up their cases? Thank you so much. We are all ears.
In fact, the limited time that I have,
Yes.
I shall try to pinpointedly discuss on the working journalists
Yes.
and the code, specifically on decoding the code in respect of the working journalists. That is the main issue.
Super.
I am not talking the generalities of the
No,
code
that's not
itself.
required.
So that
Yes.
is it. So as far as the working journalist is concerned, let us first recall certain historical background. It's necessary for us to understand that. Very briefly, in 1951, the first constitutional amendment debate, the issue came up of the condition of the press and conditions of the working journalists.
Yes.
And there the Prime Minister assured that there should be press commission. It then came up in the parliamentary debate in 1952, that is the Objectionable Press, Objectionable Matters Bill, 1952. There also it came up. Then Indian Federation of Working Journalists also adopted a resolution 1952 demanding a press commission. Ultimately, in 1952, the government of India appointed Press Commission. That is very important for us to understand today the situation. The Press Commission examined the whole matter about the conditions of the working journalists. And then in 1954, they gave their recommendation to the Press Commission. The Press Commission came to the conclusion whether Industrial Disputes Act 1947 is sufficient for the working journalists like other workers. The Press Commission came to a conclusion, very significant conclusion, no.
Yes.
There is a special category of employees, there's special nature of work, therefore a special law is necessary for them. They cannot be bracketed with other workers in general. Therefore, special law is necessary. That is a very important conclusion of the Press Commission. And that has been accepted during the parliamentary debate on this. They accepted these special conditions of the workers is there. Then, so therefore, this particular point, the special category of employees cannot be bracketed with other general workers. That is a Press Commission recommendation that we must remember. Second point, when the Press Commission, all other recommendations of the Press Commission was accepted and the Working Journalists Act came into being. But while discussing the minimum wages, the Parliament said, who will decide the minimum wages and why only minimum wages, why not rate of the wages? That ultimately, the parliamentary debate came up and said there should be a national wage board. So this national wage board of the working journalist is a part of the law, Working Journalists Act, and it is a product of the parliamentary debate. So therefore, these two particular points I would like to emphasize of the historical background, that there's a special category of employees and the National Wage Board as a legal obligations, as a part of the law. These are the 2 points I wanted to especially aspect of that. Now the labor codes have been passed, as you know, the labor codes have been passed, all 4 labor codes. And in general, like all 3 codes and 3 farm acts are bracketed together and passed in the parliament, as you know. Farmers are also agitating, and 10 central trade unions together rejected that code. As farmers have rejected the Farms Act, similarly, all 10 central trade unions, except RSS affiliated BMS, all 10 central trade unions in the country and the national federations jointly demanded that this code should be scrapped, and they are in agitation, including the proposed strike, general strike of the workers in future. So this is a long drawn battle. They are settled down. This code, the trade unions have not accepted in the country in any manner. This is the one thing I would like to present before you. Now, coming specifically to the working journalists, the one, that code on wastage, this is very important for us. The code on wastage repealed the Working Journalists Act.
Yes.
And not only Working Journalists Act, but also the Complementary Fixation of Wage Act of 1958. Both the acts have been repealed by the Code on Wages. This is an important point, that this act does not exist today.
Yes.
And with this goes away the legal obligations of the National Wage Board. So therefore, they are repealed by the Code on Wastage. On this question of repealing, the several journalists association, myself also, had a discussion with the members of the standing committee, and the standing committee debated. But standing committee in the recommendations never said that it should not be repealed. They said that government is assured, therefore the question of repealed were never taken up in the report of the standing committee. This is very, though the working journalist organizations and others all represented to the standing committee. Anyway, so so that the National Wage Board ends with that, and this. Now the course, it has been said that it is subsumed in the code. Now let us examine how it is subsumed. The IR code. Let us go to the IR code. IR code is a general workers, all workers are there in IR code. But how the working journalists have been incorporated in the IR code? Saying that it includes the working journalist as defined in the clause F of the section 2 of the Working Journalist and Other Newspaper Employees Conditions Service Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. That means we are saying through this Working Journalist Act, they are part of they are accepting, they are the special category, but they have been bracketed with others omnibus category, they have been added, but through this definition. Now, this is a very fallacious question. That will lead to a lot of litigation. On code on OSH, you are repealing it. And IR code, you are accepting the definition. The Journalist Act does not exist, a non-existent law, and you are defining it. This will lead to a lot of litigations in country on these questions, the definition. So this is one very important point for us to know. Then another point I would like to say, I was hearing Mr. Mahtab about this wages, code on wages, but let us examine now a little bit code on wages and the working journalists. The code on wages has two definitions. One of the employees, one of the workers. Now, all other categories of workers are featured in both, in the definition of employees also, and the definition of workers also. All other workers, like skilled, unskilled, manual, technical, clerical, operational, etc., etc. But working journalists and self-promotion employees have been added only in the category of workers, not in the definition of employees. All others are featured, except the working journalist and self-promotion employees. They have been added in the definition of workers in the code on wages. If you read the code on wages, you will find it is applicable only to the employees.
Yes.
It does not apply to the workers. Nowhere a single word has been mentioned it applies to the workers, though it has been defined. That means a definition of workers have been given to exclude them from the code on wages. So I would request Comrade Mahtab that he is very enthusiastic about this code on wages, which board will come through the code on wages, etc., etc. I think there is no possibility. Even the ordinary negotiations for the wage, like other workers, that is not possible. So they are excluded with that. So these are the few points I would like to, as for decoding, as you said, decoding as far as journalists are concerned, this is going to affect. In fact, journalists are deprived of the special law. They are being deprived of the IR code. They are deprived of the code on wages, and they are deprived of everything. So that is how the media will take a control. And last word, not the least, is this about the electronic media journalists are being covered. How? I have not seen the electronic media. You have mentioned in a brochure, but I have examined this, that there is no definition. Even the definition of workers, it does not feature. Even in the definition of industry, it does not feature. Where from we have drawn the conclusion the electronic media journalists have been included in the present definition? Nowhere it is mentioned. So it has been mentioned only including as defined in the Working Journalist Act of 1955. In that definition, Working Journalist Act, the electronic media does not feature. Even in the definition of industry, electronic media nowhere came in. So therefore, I think this is not a correct estimation that electronic media has been added to that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. No one can decode better than an eminent trade unions like you. You can read between the lines, the dynamics, the undercurrents, which I've gone through the course, but I could not even see these finer points. So my request to all the attendees is that please put your questions in the chat box so that at the end of this session, we can, Mr. Mahtab is not there, but Mr. Suresh, Professor Suresh and Comrade Majumdar here, so we can pose them the questions. Please do it fast. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for being with us. Thank you so much, sir. And please stay back. There'll be a lot of questions till the session is over. Now, let me introduce Professor Suresh. You are there. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for standing, for your standby. Professor KG Suresh knows no introduction. He's a senior journalist, columnist, and currently he is the Vice Chancellor of the first journalism university, the Makhanlal Chaturvedi University. Before this, he was the Director General of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. I had the privilege of working with him briefly, and we continue to work on many issues and many seminars and workshops. Professor Suresh wears many hats. He had stints in the print and broadcast media, besides PR at various points of his time in his career, spanning over a quarter century. Just to share a few, he has worked as a senior consulting editor of the DD News, editorial consultant with Asia Net News Network. He has been a chief political correspondent with the Press Trust of India, which incidentally, implemented the wage board, Majithia wage board, and he was a group media advisor to Dalmia Bharat Enterprise. A prolific speaker, the list of his awards and achievements runs into many pages, which I'm not going to read. Anyone who wants to know about it, please log on to his Facebook, and you know what all his achievements have been. So over to you, Professor Suresh. And we want, since you have been a working journalist and academic, so we'd like to have both, perspectives from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Jethwani. Always a pleasure to be sharing the dais with you. And a very good morning to Professor Ambrish Saxena. I also find Professor M.R. Murthy here. I also find my former colleague Krishna here. I also find Sushmita Bala here. And I'm sure that there are, among the 335 participants so far, I'm sure many are my friends who are there, who are known to me. And both DME and ISID have been really taking very innovative, I would say, initiatives to have nationwide deliberations on very critical issues of the day. And my compliments to both the organization for organizing this very relevant conversation. I would say, and also, of course, we have Mr. Majumdar from the C2, who is also present here. I wish Mr. Bhartruhari Mahtab had stayed back so that he could have taken inputs from here to the standing committee, but maybe we can all compile that and send it across to him. Maybe ISID can do that. Thank you. I have not only been a working journalist, but I have also been an active trade unionist. I was a leader of the Federation of PTI Employees Unions. I've been with the National Union of Journalists. I've been associated with the trade union movement to the extent that I remember the kind of, protests we had led, at that time against the demanding the setting up of the new wage board and for implementation of the wage boards, So Shram Shakti Bhavan used to be our main center for all that. Not only that, in fact, last year after demitting office as a Director General, and following the implementation of the code, the 4 codes, I had led a delegation of trade union leaders to the Union Labour Minister Santosh Gangwar to raise these very important points. In fact, most of the issues that I propose to cover have already been covered by my earlier speakers, including Professor Jethwani, including Mr. Mahtab and Mr. Majumdar. But I just wanted to, we raised certain questions. The first question I remember asking the Labour Secretary was that, how can you equate a dock worker or a BD worker with a journalist? We are the fourth estate, the fourth pillar of democracy. Our responsibilities, I'm not saying that this is not about dignity of labor. Certainly we respect all the, workers, but our roles are totally different. for us, the freedom of the independence of media has to be maintained. It may not be as much important for him. The rights as a worker is certainly there, but my being a journalist also means I have a constitutional responsibility, I have a constitutional mandate, I have a certain role in democracy. That also needs to be kept in mind while framing laws with regard to me. I agree, totally agree that we had a plethora of British era laws which needed to be modified, which needed to be brought under one, instead of having multiple laws which led to multiple problems. There was a need to consolidate these laws, about 29 central labor laws. These have been consolidated, and labor reforms certainly for industrialization and industrial reforms. These very important, no doubt about it. And of course, as the government claims, it reduces complexities, it improves the ease of compliances, it ushers in transparency and accountability, and to some extent, it says that it helps employers and workers. But there are serious apprehensions whether it expands the space available to unilaterally close down establishments, retrench workers without even making any effort to provide adequate compensation, to restrict their right to protest. When I left active journalism, one of the reasons was that my organization at that time was introducing contract system in a big way. I had prophesied at that time, because my trade union agreed to that contract system and I had to part ways with them. And I said that I will not work as a contract laborer, as a contract journalist. And I refused. But once it came today, that very union is totally shattered. The union is in a very bad shape. Nobody listens to the union. I had predicted all this would happen because the unions have really become weakened. You count all the journalist unions in the country today. How many active working journalists are there? Most of them are journalists who are either retired or who are no more working journalists. The contract journalists cannot be part of it. So journalist trade unions, I remember there was a time when they could really bring the printing of the press to a grinding halt. But today, majority of the workers are on contract. So the last wage board, you in fact mentioned, Professor Jethwani, that PTI was among the handful of organizations, along with organizations like the Hindu, which implemented the wage board. But I'm sorry, when it came to, it was up to Manisana. But when it came to Majithia, I think they all challenged it in the Supreme Court. And trade unions had to go to the Supreme Court. Even at that time, even during Manisana, even during Majithia, only a handful of organizations actually implemented the wage board recommendations. And there was no mechanism to ensure that they were implemented. Perhaps successive governments have followed a hands-off approach toward journalist welfare. It has always been more of tokenism rather than anything substantial. And that being the case, was it fair? Because it was after a lot of struggle. It was not a British era legislation. The Working Journalists and Other Newspaper Employees Conditions of Service and Miscellaneous Provision Act 1955 and Working Journalists Fixation of Rates of Wages Act 1958 were achieved after a lot of struggle. And it is very imperative that either the provisions of those should have been incorporated into the labor codes, or they should have been retained as such. This was very important. Today, I am speaking in my capacity as a university vice chancellor. I do not know what to tell my media students when it comes to stability of jobs, job security. What kind of independence of media can I assure them if they are going to work at the whims and fancies of employers? So I think that it is important that the governments of the day, the political parties should come together and should not consider journalists as just another group of workers. They have an additional responsibility. I wanted to just flag a couple of points because I know there is a paucity of time. So just let me you see, what are our concerns as journalists? Contract employment, retrenchment. You know what happened during this entire COVID-19? I mean, so many journalists, senior journalists, their services were terminated without any, a very, very I mean, you had an excuse of the COVID-19 economic situation, and many of these big corporate media houses were minting money like anything. They could have certainly ensured that, the bare minimum, they could have ensured that even if there were salary cuts, they should not have gone for job retrenchment. But instead of that, they found in that an excuse to retrench a lot of employees. As a result, you have hundreds of journalists who are today on the streets without any social security in place. Absence of gratuity, that is an issue that has been raised. Pension, we don't have a pension. No institution provides any pension. And of course, no regular working hours. I mean, as has already been mentioned, there is no end to the kind of, I don't remember getting a leave for months together. And we used to work, but of course we can understand our responsibility. I mean, we would be working for months together outside of our station. And then how can you say that, you don't have any rights? You can just be sent and asked to work for hours together. Now, yesterday, Delhi, you had the violence. Can a journalist say that, no, it's my 6 hours are over, I'm coming back? No, you can't. The nature of the job of journalists is such that, you cannot have a regular working hour. Then, is there a compensation for that? That is the question. I can very well understand. What about medical facilities? It's a big issue. Except some state governments offering some PIB accredited correspondents getting CGHS benefits. You don't have, journalists, generally journalists, he has to, I mean, the kind of, I'm sorry, Professor Jethwani, we were together at IIMC. I had to tell a couple of very leading newspapers who had come for placement to leave because they were offering 12,000 rupees
Yes.
to journalism students.
Yes.
I mean, fresh journalism graduates. Now, 12,000 rupees is something that a driver in Delhi will not take.
True.
He will take more than that. Are you giving a journalist less than what is paid to an unskilled worker? That is a question that we should all be asking. My only contention is that, there has to be certain, provisions. I had, of course, detailed, but some of these have been addressed by both Mr. Mahtab and, for example, the retrenchment. Now the bar has been raised up to 300 employees, whereas, most media organizations have less than 100 employees, so they don't come under the ambit anymore. Now these are issues which are really serious. But I believe that there should be now. Mr. Mehtab says the recommendation is that eligibility of gratuity is now to 3 years of service, and of course there is a need for a tripartite wage boards should be resumed. ESI facility should be provided, and I think that there has to be a penalty for non-implementation, and there has to be inclusion of new categories of jobs such as digital, which have to be included. The second press commission came before the advent of the television and digital media. So I think that there is a need,
Yes.
and I'm availing this leverage of this platform to demand that we should have a media commission which should lay down a legal framework. That is very important. And I think that is, so there are a host of other issues also, which I would, but I would say that journalists there has to be broader discussions of this nature involving even people from the government. Please include even officials from the labor ministry and the labor minister if required in future discussions, so that we can have, we should ensure that, yes, we are proud to be workers, but we also need to preserve and protect the independence of media. We cannot let the sword of Damocles hang over a journalist's head all the time. This has to be ensured. This, in short, is my view. Most of other aspects have already been covered. Thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to share my perspective. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, please unmute.
Institutions teaching journalism. Imagine the number of students who are churning out every day, every year. So journalism is still seen as sunshine profession. And when you say that only 10 to 12,000 rupees are given to a budding journalist, what is that we are communicating? On the one hand, you're a celebrity journalist getting 10 crores, 12 crores in a year. I mean, if it is 1 to 10 ratio, I can understand. It can't be 1 to thousands ratio. This is what is happening. And, I was talking to a senior journalist who said that some of the senior people in the 90s are responsible for the state of affairs because they got into the bet, they got into contractual system, they were given 10 times the salary. And this is what we are seeing now. It's very unfortunate, but true. Thank you so much for, flagging that important issue. And I hope I had a talk with the Labor Ministry. They might have, for journalism, for the media industry, they might have which will be represented by the Labor Commissioner, the Employment Commissioner. They might be inviting, suggestions again. So I hope the people who are active from trade unions, from the associations, take this opportunity to flag it further. Thank you so much for giving your time. Krishna, can we request Professor Murthy now to say a few words?
Yes,
Krishna?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll
Yeah.
I invite
You can invite him to say a few words.
now I invite Professor M.R. Murthy to share his thoughts on the theme of deconstructing the labor code.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Krishna. And in fact, my apologies for joining a little late as I was stuck in the traffic. And in fact, it was indeed a very great opportunity for listening to Mr. Mehtab, Mr. Majumdar, and also my friend, Professor Suresh. And as you know, that Institute for Studies in Industrial Development is an institution within the framework of ICSSR. And I would recall, at this juncture, this institute, though not specializing in media-related issues for quite some time, but we did have the opportunity and experience of working the various labor laws relating to micro and small industries for a study commission by the ILO. And we have submitted legal and legal framework for promotion of micro and small industries that was included as the larger part of the report by ILO in the late 80s. And prior to that, I would recall, as I think Professor Suresh and Professor Mr. Mazumdar and all have said, and electronic and digital media was a latter part of the Second Press Commission. This institute was awarded a major study by the Second Press Commission on ownership and control structure of Indian press, that is basically the print media. And we have come out with a report after going to the detailed scrutiny of the ownership structure of the Indian press. And the press commission was very much pleased with that and included as a part of its annexure the entire report that was widely discussed. But later, I think the media industry has grown beyond the limits, and yet there are no specific regulations which deal with it. And this fact has been brought in by, I think, Professor Seema and Professor Jetwani, particularly when Professor Jetwani joined the institute as a visiting professor. And now she's holding the ICSSR Senior Fellowship. And she had done, I think, a few studies relating to genders and working women in media and also on advertising. And I think now we have a full-fledged media studies division within the institute. But I think as far as the codifying the labor laws is concerned, and the views have been expressed by eminent speakers and the chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee and also Mr. Mazumdar. And I think these are all valid views. I think, I mean, the journalists, media personnel are not clearly covered in these labor. And I think this is going to be impacting them tremendously. When this idea came up, I think Professor Jetwani has been contemplating this issue, particularly relating to working journalists, has not been covered anyway. She wanted to take up as a part of her ICSSR fellowship. And she did. I think the council also were very glad to give her a go ahead. And this is a gray area where a lot of research is to be done. And on that, I think she could able to shape up. I think we have many more speakers. I would not like to take, but we also have some studies relating to labor regulations, that which we have done it for European Union and others, and basically in economic aspects of wages, employment, how the labor regulations are being affecting. And as we all, I think, appreciate from the previous predecessor three speakers, and trade unions over a period have weakened, and there is no forum where these views of the trade unions are taken by the government, even the present regime or even the earlier dispensation. And I think this needs to be discussed in more detail. I think the kind of deliberation that we are going to have will be useful for, I think, bringing out these issues before the authorities, so that they will get covered. With these things, I'll thank all of you for giving me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, please unmute.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Amrish, now since we are running against time, it's already 11:30. So I'll request, because I've been speaking in between also, I'll request you to say a few words. And maybe I was just wondering while listening to all the three keynote speakers, and many more which are to come as panelists. So we can think about coming out with a working paper based on this and the rest of things, and place before this August gathering, sometimes later, and also to the government policymakers also. So I request you to say a few words before we close this session with a vote of thanks from Seema. Ambrish, to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Jetwani. Since morning, obviously, all the speakers touched upon all vital points. It was really very informative, and I myself could know so many latest development which otherwise I was not apprised of, though since I have been a working journalist. So I have come across with so many things. I have faced, as I was telling you earlier, right from retrenchment to lockouts, everything I have passed through while working in the news organizations. So I am very familiar as to what kind of problems would have had been there. And Professor K.G. Suresh also touched upon all those points which I also believe are very vital with regard to working conditions and wages, and then the basic facilities which any journalist should be entitled, must be entitled rather, which have always been unheard of. Whichever government has been there, whichever regime has been there, but the plight of journalists have always been the same. And working journalists have never been effective. This we all know. And Mr. Mehta told us about something about the new codes, but then there are apprehensions. And obviously these kind of discourses can help further if we can send, as Professor Jetwani suggested, so in the form of some white paper or some recommendations and all, we can send to the government. Then whatever legislations are to come before Parliament, before that some changes could be introduced in that to the benefit of the journalists, because otherwise the things will remain the same. The things were bad during Working Journalist Act regime, and that is going to be worse with the new codes if no good sense prevails on the policy makers and the lawmakers before these codes are finalized. So I think we should finish this session with this, so that the experts for the next session have also joined in. So yeah, sure.
Yes. Seema,
Yeah, thank you. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you. I've been given the privilege of proposing a vote of thanks on behalf of the two organizing institutions, ISID Delhi and DME Noida. First and foremost, I would like to thank the keynote speakers. I would like to thank Mr. Bhartuhari Mahatab for taking out valuable time from his busy schedule and giving important insights on the labor laws and what they mean and imply for the media industry as a whole, and the need to amend old laws with changing times. I also thank Comrade J.S. Majumdar for his time and for raising pertinent issues related to labor codes and decoding these codes. Thank you, Professor Suresh, for an engaging talk on the pros and cons of these codes, specifically with the concerns regarding the aspirations of the working journalists. Thank you so much for giving your insights. I also thank Professor Jayashree Jetwani, Professor Murthy, Professor Aman Sahni, Professor Amrish Saxena, Professor Sushmita Bala, and the entire organizing team for organizing and putting together this webinar. But last but not the least, I thank all the participants for joining and making this webinar relevant and successful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Seema, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Over to you now, Ambrish, your session.
Ma'am, just to say,
thank you, Professor Jetwani.
Thank you, Seema, ma'am, for the vote of thanks, and thank you all the participants and dignitaries.